Welcome to another edition of Snack Time with Miss Pope. We are reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and last we left off, Lucy might be in big trouble with the White Witch because Mr. Tumnus seemed to have tricked her. I'm setting my alarm for 10 minutes. Go grab your snack and let's keep reading. Daughter of Eve, don't you understand, said the fawn. It isn't something I have done. I'm doing it now, this very moment. What do you mean? Cried Lucy, turning very white. You are the child, said Tumnus. I had orders from the White Witch that if I ever saw a son of Adam or a daughter of Eve in the wood, I was to catch them and hand them over to her. And you are the first I ever met. And I pretended to be your friend and asked you to tea, and all the time I've been meaning to wait till you were asleep and then go tell her. Oh, but you wouldn't, Mr. Tumnus, said Lucy. You wouldn't, will you? Indeed, indeed, you really mustn't. And if I don't, he said, beginning to cry again, she's sure to find out, and she'll have my tail cut off, and my horns sawn off, and my beard plucked out, and she'll wave her wand over my beautiful cloven hooves, and turn them into horrid, solid hooves, like a horse's. And if she is extra and especially angry, she'll turn me into stone, and I shall be only a statue of a fawn in her horrible house until the 4 thrones of Carpavel are filled. And goodness knows when that'll happen, or whether it will ever happen at all. I'm very sorry, Mr. Tumnus, said Lucy, but please let me go home. Of course I will, said the fawn. Of course, I've got to. I see that now. I hadn't known what humans were like before I met you. Of course, I can't give you up to the White Witch, not now that I know you, but we must be off at once. I'll see you back at the lamppost. I suppose you can find your own way from there back to the spare home and wardrobe? I'm sure I can, said Lucy. We must go as quietly as we can, said Mr. Tumnus. The whole wood is full of her spies. Even some of the trees are on her side. So you can see the picture there. There's Mr. Tumnus. He's running, and then quietly, because some of the trees are on her side. They both got up and left the tea things on the table, and Mr. Tumnus once more put up his umbrella and gave Lucy his arm. And they went out into the snow. The journey back was not at all like the journey to the fawn's cave. They stole along as quickly as they could, without speaking a word, and Mr. Tumnus kept to the darkest places. Lucy was relieved when they reached the lamppost again. Do you know your way from here, daughter of Eve? Said Tumnus. Lucy looked very hard between the trees and could just see in the distance a patch of light that looked like daylight. Yes, she said, I can see the wardrobe door. Then be off home as quick as you can, said the fawn. And can you ever forgive me for what I meant to do? Why, of course I can, said Lucy, shaking him heartily by the hand. And I do hope you won't get into dreadful trouble on my account. Farewell, daughter of Eve, said he. Perhaps I may keep the handkerchief? Rather, said Lucy, and then ran towards the far-off patch of daylight as quickly as her legs would carry her. And presently, instead of rough branches brushing past her, she felt coats. And instead of crunching snow under her feet, she felt wooden boards. And all at once she found herself jumping out of the wardrobe into the same empty room from which the whole adventure had started. She shut the wardrobe door tightly behind her and looked around, panting for breath. It was still raining, and she could hear the voices of the others in the passage. I'm here, she shouted. I'm here. I've come back. I'm all right. Chapter 3, Edmund and the Wardrobe. Lucy ran out of the empty room into the passage and found the other 3. It's all right, she repeated. I've come back. What on earth are you talking about, Lucy? Asked Susan. Why, said Lucy in amazement, haven't you all been wondering where I was? So, you've been hiding, have you, said Peter. Poor old Lou, hiding and nobody noticed. You'll have to hide longer then if you want people to start looking for you. But I've been away for hours and hours, said Lucy. The others all stared at one another. Batty, said Edmund, tapping his head. Quite batty. What do you mean, Lou? Asked Peter. What I said, answered Lucy. It was just after breakfast when I went into the wardrobe, and I've been away for hours and hours and had tea, and all sorts of things have happened. Don't be silly, Lucy, said Susan. We've only just come out of that room a moment ago, and you were there then. She's not being silly at all, said Peter. She's just making up a story for fun. Aren't you, Lou? And why shouldn't she? No, Peter, I'm not, she said. It's a magic wardrobe. There's a wood inside it. It's snowing, and there's a faun and a witch, and it's called Narnia. Come and see. The others did not know what to think, but Lucy was so excited that they all went back with her into the room. She rushed ahead of them, flung open the door of the wardrobe, and cried, Now, go in and see for yourselves. Why, you goose, said Susan, putting her head inside and pulling out the fur coats and then pulling them apart. It's just an ordinary wardrobe. Look, there's the back of it. Then everybody looked in and pulled the coats apart, and they all saw what Lucy herself saw, a perfectly ordinary wardrobe. There was no wood and no snow, only the back of the wardrobe with hooks on it. Peter went in and rapped his knuckles on it to make sure that it was solid. A jolly good hoax, Lou, he said as he came out again. You have really taken us in, I must admit. We half believed you. But it wasn't a hoax at all, said Lucy, really and truly. It was all different a moment ago. Honestly, it was, I promise. Come, Lou, said Peter, that's going a bit far. You've had your joke. Hadn't you better drop it now? Lucy grew very red in the face and tried to say something, though she hardly knew what she was trying to say, so she burst into tears. For the next few days, she was very miserable. She could have made it up with the others quite easily at any moment if she could have brought herself to say that the whole thing was only a story made up for fun. But Lucy was a very truthful girl, and she knew that she was really in the right, and she could not bring herself to say this. The others who thought she was telling a lie, and a silly lie too, made her very unhappy. The two elder ones did this without meaning to do it, but Edmund could be spiteful, and on this occasion he was spiteful. He sneered and jeered at Lucy and kept on asking her if she'd found any other new countries and any other cupboards all over the house. What made it worse was that these days ought to have been delightful. The weather was fine, and they were out of doors from morning to night, bathing, fishing, climbing trees, and lying in the heather. But Lucy could not properly enjoy any of it, and so things went on until the next wet day. That day, when it came to the afternoon and there was still no sign of a break in the weather, they decided to play hide and seek. Susan was it. And as soon as the others scattered to hide, Lucy went to the room where the wardrobe was. She did not mean to hide in the wardrobe because she knew that would only set the others talking again about the whole wretched business. But she did want to have one more look inside of it, for by this time she was beginning to wonder herself whether Narnia and the faun had been a dream. The house was so large and complicated and full of hiding places that she thought she would have time to have one look in the wardrobe and then hide somewhere else. But as soon as she reached it, she heard steps in the passage outside, and then there was nothing for it but to jump into the wardrobe and hold the door closed behind her. She did not shut it properly because she knew that it was very silly to shut oneself into a wardrobe, even if it was not a magic one. Now, the steps she had heard were those of Edmund, and he came into the room just in time to see Lucy vanishing into the wardrobe. He at once decided to get into it himself, not because he thought it a particularly good place to hide, but because he wanted to go on teasing her about her imaginary country. He opened the door. There were the coats hanging up as usual, and a smell of mothballs, and darkness and silence, and no sign of Lucy. She thinks I'm Susan coming to catch her, said Edmund to himself, and so she's keeping very quiet in it at the back. He jumped in and shut the door, forgetting what a very foolish thing this is to do. Then he began feeling about for Lucy in the dark. He had expected to find her in a few seconds and was very surprised when he did not. He decided to open the door again and let in some light. Oh, there's the timer, but let me finish my page. Let me see. But he could not find the door either. He didn't like this at all and began groping wildly in every direction. He even shouted out, "Lucy, Lou, where are you? I know you're here." There was no answer, and Edmund noticed that his own voice had a curious sound. Not the sound you expect in a cupboard, but the kind of open air sound. So here he is. He's going through to find her. So tomorrow on Snack Time with Miss Pope, we'll find out if he actually goes through to Narnia. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Good luck on all your assignments, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. And Lily says hi.